What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the distance. Got a video for you guys. This is a post-fight to Nonito Donaire versus Omar Narvaez. Bout took place last Saturday. Put together the challenger and actual champion, junior bantamweight champion. Omar Narvaez against Nonito Donaire, the bantamweight champion. So overall, the crowd kind of explained the fight and what they thought. When they chanted later in the fight, this is bullshit. Pretty much, I hate looking at one-sided fights that have the same result over a number of rounds. But early in the fight, I thought that Omar Narvaez actually held his own early in the fight because he was throwing the counter jab, he was throwing the counter left hand. I think in the third round, he hit him with a counter right hand, counter right hook, hooking off his counter right hook off of Donaire's jab. I thought he was doing quite well in the earlier part of the fight. Just because like I said, he was there to compete in the early rounds. He was throwing the left hand. The left hand was actually landing. He was a little more accurate and a little more clean with his punches compared to Donaire in the earlier rounds. So, pretty much, it was one-sided. But overall, Narvaez was not willing to engage with Donaire. So it wasn't necessarily much of a fight. It was just more so of a one-sided boxing match. And I hate watching one-sided boxing matches when you have an opponent that doesn't really make any adjustments in front of you. I like to see boxing displays, and this was not a boxing display. This was just a one-sided fight. It was just a one-sided fight where one fighter shelled up and the other fighter threw. So pretty much, there's really no need to go round by round. I did give Narvaez a second round, just based on clean, effective punching. I thought Narvaez. I had Narvaez winning the second round, though it's another round you could argue either way. But just overall, I thought it was just a one-sided fight. And somebody did hit me up saying that was a draw. I don't know how you see this fight as a draw. Maybe because Narvaez was attempting to counter Donaire's jab, and early in the fight, the punch numbers were somewhat identical. But I just thought that the entire fight, Donaire was just outworking. He just outworked Narvaez. And the fighter that outworks the other is always going to look better to the judges. Donaire was coming forward, you pressuring him using his hand speed, and then started moving around the ring, and utilizing the ring and just throwing towards his Narvaez shell. And also, man, Narvaez's corner should have told him to try to fight with Donaire. Forget trying to counter, forget trying to stand outside. You're losing the fight, and you need to come forward and you need to go for it. Even like whether you have the power or not, you need to go out swinging. That suicide by cop mentality. I think probably around 9 or 10. He was probably leaving himself open for a knockout, of course, because Donaire does have one punch power. He was probably leaving himself open for the knockout, but I think a corner shouldn't just try to get their fighter to survive. I think that they should get their fighter to go out with some dignity instead of just standing there and shelling up and being hit. Because if you shell up, then you're just leaving it open for another fighter to win points on you. And it's kind of like with those fighters that shell up. They shell up so they can kind of bore you half to death. And then when they start to bore you half to death and you stop punching as much, then that's when they start throwing. That's when they begin to capitalize on it. So Donaire fought the way he should have against the fighter that shelled up. But the fighter that shelled up, just wasn't so entertaining to the fans. And then Max Kellerman in round 11 went on to the small rant about he's on HBO, this, that, and the other. And I'm sure HBO fed that into his headset. I like Max Kellerman, but I'm sure HBO told him to say that because they do tell him to say stuff in the headsets. But also, his corner was giving Narvaez horrible advice. And then in the last round, like in the last round, something that was kind of funny was in the last round they were talking to him, and then his trainer said he's a fag. I'm like, wow, that's quite the advice to give a fighter in the corner. He's a fag. Like, what's that supposed to do for your fighter? Because I'm like, yeah, and that fag on the other side of the ring is beating you right now. So it is what it is. I'm like, and I don't know anything about. I'm sure Donaire is not gay, but it's just kind of funny to me that the core is talking about he's a fag, this, that, and the third, and not really giving them any advice on how to win the fight. And Narvaez is a veteran fighter, 36 years old. He's a veteran fighter, so he should know how to. And yet he's won. He's won most of his fights except for 2 of them. So I think he should know just how to get in there and try to get the win, instead of just standing there later in the fight. Because I thought he did well competing in the first half of the fight and all the way up to round 8. But after that, Donaire just simply continued to outwork him and gain more control of the fight. He wouldn't fight with Donaire. And I can understand if he didn't fight with Donaire. He's a bigger fighter. He can knock him out with one punch. But also, he should have at least tried or something. So tried to do a little bit more than stand, shell up, look for the counter. Because, you could throw one counter shot, but also what's always going to look better is the numerous volume punches. And when you throw a lot of volume punches and 1 or 2 punches that come in between 20 to 30 punches, then the 20 to 30 is going to look better than the counter punches unless you got counter punches that hurt like hell. And Narvaez didn't have those kind of counter punches. So I had it Donaire 11 rounds to 1. Though the first round could have been debated as well because Narvaez was landing much cleaner on Donaire in the first round. So the first round could be debated. But I had 11 rounds to 1 for Donaire. So anyway, peace. I'm out of here. Check me out on Twitter, Julian W. the Great. I'm out of here. Peace.